Hey guys, so I wanted to just jump on here really quickly and give you guys a few ways that I think white people, just in the mainstream and in the media, perpetuate racism while they claim to not be racist. Because I notice in my comments, I actually get quite a bit of them from white people. And I noticed that they like to call me racist, although I literally have like zero institutional power that would allow me to oppress them. I kind of feel like I wish I did. However, I don't. So I noticed that whenever you mention certain things, like historical facts of what white people did, then automatically you become racist. You know, you get a lot of deflections. However, let a situation comes out that involves black people or any black crime being committed, and you're immediately going to see and know how white people truly feel. I really feel like they are telling us and giving us every indication of how they actually feel and think about black people, but you know, most of us are choosing to ignore those facts. And I think that again, this goes back to, in order for us to be able to combat something, we have to know what we're dealing with. I don't think it's just a white mentality that's the problem. I think it's black people's mentality as well, because a lot of time our mentality perpetuates racism, and um, it helps white people to feel superior to black people, because in a way, in a lot of ways, we as a community, we hold them at a higher standard, hold them on a higher pedestal than we do our community, although we really shouldn't, especially if we pay attention to history and present. I just really want to drive this point. Unless black people are in a subservient position, white people cannot feel superior. So that is why I think a lot of white people actually want the system to stay the same, because they really do know that they have privilege. If you do a survey, a lot, and ask a lot of white people how many of them would like to be treated like black people, they will say no. That is the very definition of white privilege. If they can say that they would not like to want to be treated like black people, then you acknowledge that black people are treated in a manner that's less than white people or worse than white people. And when I say white people, I don't mean all white people. I don't think all white people are trying to intentionally be racist. I do think the mindset of everyone really, regardless to whether they're white or a different color. I think in America, you cannot live in America, grow up in America, have lived and been taught through the American educational system, and not have a white supremacist standpoint. Or even if you don't think white people are superior, you will feel like black people are inferior inherently. Although if you look at the actions of white supremacists and white people, then you will actually see that their actions actually show that they are innately inferior or psychopathic. Um, and so I just want to go into a couple ways that I feel like white people who claim, specifically the ones who claim to not be racist. I notice these things literally only come from the ones that claim to not be racist, but how they actually perpetuate it while denying it. So number one is they defend racism while they're denying that it exists. Examples of this is, how many times have you saw in the media or on social media white people spewing out racial terms, specifically referring to black people as niggers or monkeys or whatever, while claiming to not be racist? I don't know if you guys remember, there was a story when Obama was reelected. There was a couple of people that literally had bumper stickers on their cars saying "Do not renege," or there was a girl that worked at Cold Stone Creamery that said she couldn't believe that this nigger, while she was referring to Obama, was reelected again, and she thought that he should be assassinated. She actually felt like she wasn't being racist. A lot of white people who specifically refer to black people as niggers, and we saw this more and more through social media, or make very outlandishly racist statements as it pertains to black people, they will all come out and say, "Oh, I'm not racist." Think about those dudes at the college, at the fraternity, that were actually singing, all of them singing from memory a very racial song. And not only did they say that they weren't racist, they also blamed it on the alcohol, and then they also found a way to blame it on rap music. So what they're going to do is, what they tend to do is, they defend racism while actually denying that it exists. Also, how many times have you witnessed white people denying that white officers are only killing black unarmed men out of racism, and you'll find them say, "Oh, that could happen to anyone," although it's clearly not happening to anyone. It's happening specifically to black people. So they will find any way to justify why this black person needed to die. They will find any way to justify why this wasn't racial. Like, even if you think of the ones who are shot in open carry states, you will hear a lot of white people saying, well, they did have a gun, although clearly this is an open carry state. I've actually sent numerous white people videos of white men walking around in states with rifles attached to their back, scaring the hell out of the entire community. White people would actually choose to not watch this video because it's going to show the clear bias. Also, that they can believe that this is not a racial situation. So when they do this, when you deny that clear and obvious racism does not exist, then you're perpetuating it because you're clearly deluding yourself. How many of you have heard white people say all lives matter in response to the Black Lives Matter, despite the fact that all lives are not being taken by officers over traffic stops, they're not being put into mental institutions for owning BMWs or being shot in the back for walking away? Clearly, this is the fact that they even feel like they have to counter Black Lives Matter with all lives matter, despite our racial history and our racial present, shows their mentality. They really feel like, for the most part, that you should not be fighting out against these things because apparently to them, although there's a grave disparity in who's being shot and killed, and we know this isn't happening to white people, they will still say all lives matter. And then when you say, okay, well, show me one incident where a white person was treated this way, they'll say, oh, I can't show you one, but I know that it happens. Okay, if you can't prove that it happens, then it doesn't happen. So another thing is, I noticed that anytime someone brings up slavery, and I've actually literally had people say this, they'll say, oh, white people aren't the only one that slaved people, or they'll say the white people didn't try to kill the Germans, didn't try to kill the Jews, the Germans did. Last I checked, Germans were white people. I've also heard white people say, oh, white people didn't slave black people, Europeans slaved black people. Okay, well, didn't the Europeans migrate from Europe to America, rape and murder the Indians, and then enslave black people and force them to build America? So aren't those the same people? And then some of them will also say, oh, every country has racism. Okay, so does that make it right for America to have racism? That's just further illustrating our point, because other countries, i.e. European countries, because you can't be talking about Africa unless you're saying that the white people in Africa who wouldn't felt the need to colonize a country that wasn't theirs, yet again, are not being racist. So that is actually number one. And hopefully my many examples will make sense to you guys. If it doesn't, then you're just choosing to be stupid at this point. Number two, grave injustices to them are seen as equality. I did talk about this in another video, but I really need to drive this point home to you guys because surprisingly, I tend to meet a lot of black people that just don't understand this. The one thing I want to tell you, white people specifically, having one black president in comparison to over 40 white presidents is not equality. There's not a country on this earth that math is going to equate to equality. Until we have the exact same amount of black presidents, which we will not have that in America, I don't see that happening anytime soon, then that doesn't mean equality. Equality means equal. So that means 40 white presidents, 40 black presidents. Then we will be equal. That is a grave disparity. A 1 to 40 ratio is clearly inequality, but you will hear a lot of white people say, oh, we don't have racism anymore. We have one black president. We've had over 40 other white presidents, but we have one black president, so racism can't possibly exist. Okay, well, then you just don't know how to do math. So when black people ask for equality, white people interpret it as they're asking for special treatment, which actually suggests that equality is black people being treated worse than white people. So you can't sit there and say in one breath, oh, they want special treatment. despite all the data and the numbers and the statistics that show that black people are clearly not being treated equal to white people, and then say, oh, well, they always want a handout, they want to be treated special. Okay, well then to you, special treatment is being equal to you. Then you obviously feel like they don't deserve equal treatment. So then therefore you are obviously racist. They deny they have privilege, but like I said, ask one white person if they would want to be treated like black people. I think there was actually a survey done where they asked white people, would they want to be treated like black people? The majority, if not all of them, said no. Gee, I wonder why. Newsflash, white people, that is the definition of white privilege right there. When you already know that you would not want to be treated like black people, that means that you probably feel like black people are being treated worse than you. If you felt like they were being treated better, you would probably have answered yes to that question. When the CEO of Sam's Club stated that she was going to talk to the company executives about the fact that the upper management positions were only given exclusively to white males, white people were outraged and stated that she was racist because she said that they need to have more diversity. So that right there is an example. So having only white men in positions of management, to them is equality. That's equality to them. That's completely fair. And if you try to deviate from that, then you must be racist. Because this black lady, actually, because she's the CEO, she was called racist. They were saying they're not shopping at Sam's Club anymore, completely boycotted it, and actually said, how is this not racist? It is racist, but it's not racist on her part. It's racist on the other company execs part, who are only hiring white men. Diversity to white people should not be racism. That is the opposite, actually, of racism. Racism is when you only have white men in upper management positions. Mind you, she did not say we need to get rid of all the white men. She just said we need to have some diversity. So to them, including other people and giving other people the same opportunities as white men is racism in their eyes. So therefore, you guys are racist. They ignore statistical and historical facts that show white people with a pathology of criminal behavior as a means of creating their own reality that says black people are the problems, despite the fact that history shows that they are the problem, as they've literally oppressed, raped, murdered, enslaved, and pillaged almost literally every living organism on the planet. I'm not saying they've slaved every living organism, but you've definitely terrorized and murdered every living organism on the planet, and it's still doing it. If you are black and you point out these facts, then you're a racist. How many times have I been called a racist for pointing out these facts? I am a racist because I'm pointing out clear historical facts. So then you're admitting by default then the entire educational system in America is racist as well, because they're pointing out the fact that you've raped and murdered and enslaved and pillaged almost every group of people as well. So then by default, if I'm racist for pointing out these facts, then America is racist as well, especially their educational system, because they're actually pointing out these facts too. So anytime you're a black person or a non-white person and you point out facts, although everything they believe about black people is based on statistics and racism, or not statistics, stereotypes and racism. If you point out facts about white people that does not cast them in a very positive light, that actually is delusional and completely untrue, if your facts cast them in a negative light, then you're racist for pointing it out. How often do you notice also the same white people that will point out black on black crime, they will become very silent and most of the time defensive when you point out the fact that 83% of white people that are killed are done so by other white people, and then the rest of them are every other living organism on the planet. When you point that out, then you're racist. When you point out the fact that 99% of all mass shooters and serial killers are white men, you're racist, despite the fact that this is actually 100% fact. Pointing out the problem of white crime against the rest of humanity makes you a racist in their eyes. So, in order to keep this video not long, because I can literally, I can tell you, I can go on and on about this, and literally to the point of writing a book. I'm actually considering writing a book on this because it's such a broad topic, and there's so many examples that literally I could write a book about this. So, but keep in mind, the reason I believe that white people have this mentality mentality is because they know that if black people are actually treated equal to white people, then it is not going to cater to their low self-esteem. They actually need black people to be in subservient positions to them. They need black people to be disenfranchised. They need black people to be discriminated against. And literally, they need institutions created to keep black people from not getting ahead of them, but from being on equal playing field of them. Because if that happens, and if black people are equal to them, then they are going to naturally see that they're inferior. Black people don't have to state that they're inferior. We don't have to say that you guys are inferior. That is when natural selection will take place, because natural selection will actually tell them that they are indeed inferior. We don't have to do it. Like I said, and I will say it many times in my other videos, to say as white people that black people are inferior to you, but then create an institution that keeps them from getting to equal grounding. Let's not even talk about getting ahead. We'll just say getting on equal footing. This institution is created to prevent black people from getting on equal footing of white people. The thing of it is that them saying that is the equivalent of me saying a completely mentally and physically incapacitated person is inferior to me, but yet I need to set up barriers so that that completely incapacitated, mentally and physically incapacitated disabled person doesn't get ahead of me. That doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, if they really felt like you were inferior, they would just leave you the hell alone and let natural selection take its place. However, we have facts, we have data, we have everything that they would possibly need to see the truth, that there is a system, and America is the system, created to keep black people from getting even on the same level playing field. They will still deny that that is the case, all because if something changes, you have to understand, if that structure is broken down piece by piece, if your institutional racism is gone, if you don't have where every higher white people in the structure of it and your laws and your government is all in on one plan to keep black people from getting on equal footing of white people, if that does not exist, if this structure is broken down piece by piece, where white people and black people are on even playing field, have the same amount of money, the same amount of opportunity, reality is going to speak for itself. So those are what I think, just a few of them, of how all of them are perpetuating racism. White people, if you do any of the above, you are racist. And finally, I'll say, stop saying that you don't see color, because saying that you don't see color it doesn't make you not racist. It makes you racist, because if you have to pretend that I don't exist or that my color doesn't exist so that you don't discriminate against me, then you're racist. Because I should be able to exist in all my brownness and melanin. I should be able to have my differences from you, and you should be able to see those, and you should be able to accept those without being discriminatory. So when you say I don't see color, you might as well say I am racist, and the only way for me to not be racist and discriminate is for me to pretend that your color doesn't exist. Because if I don't, then I am incapable of doing that, and then I will be racist. So we should not have to be non-existent for you to not be racist, and if we do, then you are racist. So stop saying you don't see color, because then you might as well say I'm completely disabled. Then not being able to see color means that you're disabled. That means there's something wrong with your vision and you are disabled. So you are handicapped. I'm not even going to say you're handicapable, because you're handicapped. So you either have a disability or you're lying and you just don't, or you're stupid. It's either one of those things. Like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video. And again, white people, just comment and ponder on it. Even black people, if you think these ways, then you're a white supremacist. White supremacy is a mentality. It's not necessarily an action, because there are white people who are not white supremacists, and there are other races and cultures who are white supremacists too. There are black people who have the white supremacist mindset. So to me, this is a mindset, and this is a mentality. And until this mentality changes, you can change whatever laws you want to, but if the people who are creating the laws have a white supremacist mentality, then you're still going to have the same problem. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think.